Well, hi, everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and welcome to the show. Today, we're going to have hopefully a few smiles, a few laughs, and I've decided that it's been a difficult week for a lot of people. A lot of people just, got some bad news this week about family members and so forth. There are people in hospital, and it's just like a very difficult week for a lot of people. So, what I thought I would do is actually do a fun broadcast in terms of let's get some smiles going, and let's start the weekend on a high note rather than a down note. So, sorry, I've got allergies going on here. Hi, Jody. So just so that those of you who are not used to the broadcast, what we do is we actually use quotes, but then we start discussing wherever those quotes take us. In other words, we're very aware that what impacts us today might not impact us the same way next week, depending on where we are. And part of the emotional growth that we're doing this year as a channel is that we are looking at our day-to-day reaction to things. And so one of the big lessons that we are aware of this year is the fact that really it's not all about good news or bad news. It's just life. Life has ups and downs, and if we can learn to go with those ups and downs in a slightly less dramatic way, then our mental health and our immune systems and everything will increase dramatically, and that is why we're doing what we're doing. So I don't know if Alex is with us right now or not, but if you are, Alex, hi. I saw that you left me a note earlier, and I was actually away from the computer when you dropped it in there. So thank you so much for saying hi. I appreciated that. All right, everybody. So let's get on with the show. And if anybody's got any burning news, just let me know so that I can do that. But other than that, we're going to just move right on into the subject of today. I wanted to give those of you who've been following my health journey just a quick update, because it is really important news in my life. And that is that I went and got the results of my CAT scan, and apparently everything's fine. And for somebody who spent a lifetime smoking, I think you can all imagine that's really, really good news to hear. But what will happen now is that they will repeat that CAT scan probably on an annual basis, just to make sure that nothing has developed, during the past year. So it's one of the things I have to be forever grateful to the medical system here in British Columbia, in Canada, because they actually offered me that for free. You know what I mean? It's part of, they know I had a history of smoking, and, they just said, because of your history of smoking, just know that you are now entitled to have a CAT scan every year. So how many of you are going, wow, that's pretty good? I don't know, I would not be able to afford that in the real world. And so I'm very, very grateful. Another thing that we work on a great deal here is, to learn to be grateful for so many things. All right, so let's move on to some funny quotes. Mark Twain, known for some really great one-liners, said, "Go to heaven for the climate and to hell for the company." How many of you are going, yeah, there are a few people I know that'll be going that way. Hi, Niasha, how are you doing? All right, so whatever works for you, Niasha, we're fine with that, honey. I'm sorry to hear that you're having some difficulty. If you care to share, let us know. And if not, I totally understand. I know that you're one of the ones that I've had some thoughts and prayers going out for this week. Right, now, this is one of the quotes from Jerry Seinfeld. And I thought this was, you just got to, see Jerry saying this. He said, "If a book about failure doesn't sell, is it a success?" Think about that. And Bill Murray said, "Knowledge is like underwear. It's useful to have it, but not necessary to show it off. How many of you have met people that spend most of their time trying to make sure you know how intelligent they are, and by just so doing end up looking stupid? I don't know if you've ever met anybody like that, but I certainly have. And, there are times when I think I've done that as well. And I can now see how stupid I must have looked. Bill Sunday said, going to church doesn't make you a Christian any more than going to a garage makes you an automobile. Now, that to me is very clever. All right. How many of you know people who claim to be Christian because they go to church? And, their behavior other than going to church on Sundays, it leaves a lot to be desired in terms of the definition of being a Christian. And, it's funny because I've met quite a few people like that where people say, well, they go to church a lot. And I'm going, yeah, they probably need to. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah. There are certain people that just really concern me. Winston Churchill said, a lie gets halfway around the world before the truth has a chance of even getting its pants on. How many of you have noticed how quickly people scandalize? How many people love to gossip? And, and 9 times out of 10, gossip isn't something that works. I wanted to perhaps ask if any of you have a way of stopping gossip. One of the ways that I found if staff members came to me with gossip, I would say, because have you noticed how much they use the word they? Well, they say that, who's they? Well, I'd rather not say. Well, when you're ready to say, then I will listen to what it is you're saying. But other than that, it sounds like it is gossip to me, and I really don't want to get involved in that. Right, Nyasha, yeah. So you had an ultrasound? Or did you have an internal one? It sounds like you're in a lot of pain. I'm so sorry. Yeah, but hopefully, Nyasha, it will sort itself out so you'll be in less pain. All right. So I'm certain your body is, still reacting to the trauma. Yeah. Well, I wish you all the best with that. Just, the more you can breathe naturally, you know what I mean? Really practice that counting in, breathe in for 5, hold for 5, let go, let your breath go out for 5, exhale. Because that will help all those things that are trying to go into spasm, it'll help keep them reduced. I'm certain some of you have found that out, that it really does work. I would literally, if you've got a second hand on your watch, if you've got a watch with a second hand or an alarm clock with a second hand, literally do it, to that rhythm. Because if you can do it, and then work up to doing 6 breath, holding, taking breath in for 6, holding for 6, letting it go for 6. The more you can do that, the more you will lower the tension in your body. So best of luck with that. Now, Ellen DeGeneres said, accept who you are. Unless you're a serial killer. Oh, that's awesome. So you breathe in for 10, hold for 10, and then let go for 10? Or are you saying you breathe in and then breathe out, counting backwards? That's great that you do that. I want to tell you, it's something I try to do when I go walking as well. I try to consciously do that while I'm walking so that my body just, doesn't think about walking. My concentration is on the breathing. And how many of you need this quote in your life? It's okay not to like me. Not everyone has good taste. I've just realized how the green here, yeah. Can you see that? It's like really brought out the green in my eyes. Yeah, I love that one as well, Jody. It's okay not to like me. Not everybody has good taste. Yep. So, this came from Rodney Dangerfield, if any of you remember him. He said, I came from a really tough neighborhood. Once a guy pulled a knife on me. I knew he wasn't a professional. The knife still had butter on it. Okay, so Nyasha, let me say it one more time. I've said it twice already, but this time, hear me, okay? And this is what you do. And I'm going to do it so that you can, and I'm going to count it on my fingers, right? And so this is what you do. You breathe in. You hold it. And you exhale. Count for 5 in each one. Do you understand that? So you breathe in, counting up to 5. You hold for 5 counts, and then you let go for 5 counts. For any of you who suffer from anxiety, it's a really good way to get rid of an anxiety attack, is to count. And so anytime that you're stressed, try it. I know Jody has tried it, and it's really worked well for her as well. And George Carlin said, that's why they call it the American dream. You need to be asleep to believe it. It's been a rough week for a lot of Americans this week, I'm sure. You've never heard of it before. I talk about it nearly every week, Nyasha. But you obviously needed to hear it this week, and that's why it resonated with you. Yeah, it's a really important tool that I've given people. So when you are trying to calm down from, stuff that's happened in the house, do the same thing. Just, concentrate on counting, and breathing. And if you breathe, concentrate on your breathing and counting at the same time. Yeah, as Jody says, it works wonders. It really does. And I had a really important meeting that I needed to have with my bank yesterday, Nyasha. And so part of my getting ready for that so that I'd be in a good space was I actually did that before I went in so that I could talk from a calm place. And I did. And funny enough, it was a great meeting. I was quite surprised. How about this quote? If you're too open-minded, your brains will fall out. I don't know why that appealed to me so much, but I thought, yeah, isn't that the truth? Now, this one came from Fred Allen. For those of you who ever heard of Gracie Allen and her husband, just amazing. He said, I like long walks, especially when they're taken by people who annoy me. Yeah, I remember somebody saying once, feel free to take a long walk and don't hurry back. And it was just like, yeah. Well. Yeah, and well, Jody, thank you for that. I just thought about what is it that I thought people probably most needed this week from what I've seen in emails and what I've heard on the messenger feeds and so forth. And I thought, I think it's time to smile a bit. How many of you know this one? The four most beautiful words in our common language. By the way, try not to use them. I told you so. I want to tell you that I'm trying very hard not to say those words anymore, because I don't know about the rest of you, but it doesn't feel good when somebody tells you that, does it? And I found myself even this week saying to somebody, I did try to warn you, and I'm thinking, don't do that. They know you tried to warn them. You don't have to rub it in their face. For those of you who remember Jimmy Carter, he said, my esteem in the country has gone up substantially. It's so very nice now that when people wave at me, they use all their fingers. And for those of you who weren't around for the days of Jimmy Carter, he was a one-term president, and that people seem to love to hate. And I think it's really sad, because I think he was a really good person. Einstein. Now, how many of you didn't think that Einstein was necessarily a guy with a sense of humor? He said, the difference between stupidity and genius is that genius has its limits. Yeah. Okay, all the best, Nyasha. All right. Yes, of course, I'll be on later tonight. If you want to know at what time, then go to the DearMamaSal.com page. We always put the times on the broadcast page, so that in case you forget. Yeah. So for those of you who are watching this on the replay, we actually broadcast 3 times a week. We broadcast at noon. These are all Pacific Standard Time, by the way. We broadcast at noon Pacific, or until 2, and that's 3 to 5 on Eastern Time. From 7 to 9 Pacific, or 10 to midnight on Eastern. And on Sundays, we broadcast from 3:30 to 5, or 6:30 to 8 on Eastern Time. So thank you for that reminder. Hi, Jamie. Good to see you. All right. So now, I wonder if this makes any sense to anybody. Golda Meir, who was a well-known Israeli prime minister for a while, said, don't be so humble. You're not that great. Have you met people that almost appear to be humble for the sake of sounding better than? Have you ever met anybody like that? I have. And Stephen Wright said, I intend to live for forever. So far, so good. That is something, that's a great thing to say every day. Don't you think? I intend to live forever. So far, so good. There's a very famous Spanish proverb, and it says, tomorrow is often the busiest day of the week. And I love that. How many of you are procrastinators and know that if you put enough things off until tomorrow, tomorrow suddenly becomes hectic, very hectic? And which is why I really do practice wherever I can, just taking one step at a time. I don't care how small the step is. By the way, for those of you who've been watching my downsizing journey, I have cleared the floor in my art studio. Now, that probably doesn't sound like a big deal, but believe you me, it was. And when I say cleared it, I've also scraped the paint off it, and it's nearly clean. It's very nearly clean. I tomorrow should have the floor clean. You know, it was a huge job. Oh, that's interesting. Jody's giving me another quote from Stephen Wright. And he said, you can't have everything. Where would you put it? Yeah. Boy, I know that one. Or how about this one is very relevant, you know, in my life. Life is short, smile while you still have teeth. You know. And the question that Mitch Hedberg asked was, if I remixed a remix, would it take it back to normal? All right, now this I thought was very wise, again from Bill Murray. You know, I've got a feeling that Bill Murray is a very wise old soul. I, you know, was quite interested when Anthony Bourdain went down to visit him. And, you know, there were certain things he was saying then, and I thought, wow, you know, there's so much to that man that we don't see when he's being funny. He actually, you know, like a lot of comedians, he actually has a very deep soul. And Bill Murray said the easiest way to teach your kids about taxes is by eating 30% of their ice cream. Then they understand what 30% looks like. You know, and it's like, wow, you know, the same thing as when, you know, I was married at one stage in my life and actually inherited 3 children. When I say inherited them, I inherited them part-time. And one of the things I always did is when they came to stay with me, which they did, I always gave them an allowance, but I started the week off with giving them the full allowance, like on the Monday or Sunday. And then, you know, the allowance was actually paid on Saturday. And what I would do is if I had to ask more than twice on something during the week, I would just deduct some money from the allowance. And, you know, they learn very quickly, you know, that you don't want to be asked 3 times because, you know, that gets to be really quite nasty. And it was funny because what I found was that children really understood that, you know, that they could see a consequence to, you know, it wasn't that I got angry because I didn't need to. I would just go to the board and then you could hear the little one who couldn't count or read say, what you doing? What you doing? You know, and the older one would say, she just deducted some money off your allowance. Why? Well, she's asked you twice to do something and you haven't. So now she's going to go and do it, but she's going to take money off, you know, she's taken money off your allowance. Well, I was going to do it, yeah, but she doesn't care about the fact you were going to. She asked twice and you didn't. That's why the money's gone. Now, how about this one? As somebody who's written a couple of books in their lifetime, I thought this was priceless. Stephen Wright again. I've got to get some more information on this guy. Jody, could you make a note that I look him up afterwards? Stephen Wright said, I'm writing a book. I've got the page numbers down. Yeah, how many of you can relate to that? Lily Tomlin, you know, who some of you may be watching on the Netflix thing with Jane Fonda, said, I've always wanted to be somebody, but now I see I should have been more specific. All right, here's some fun, some fun one-liners from Joan Rivers. Said, the first time I see a jogger smiling, I'll consider it. How many of you can relate to that? You don't often see joggers smiling, do you? They sort of. How about when nothing is going right, go left? So, but when you think that, gosh, why is everything going wrong? Go left. Yeah. Or how about this one? Reality continues to ruin my life. How many of you live your life in fantasy and then every now and then get a horrible jolt when reality comes to visit? But, some of us have learned that if you actually live in reality to start with, and lessen that emotional section, it is absolutely amazing what happens in your life. It's really wonderful. And Will Rogers, who is more my parents' time than ours, but he said, never miss a good opportunity to shut up. Yeah, Jody, that's interesting that you say. Was that about the reality and living in fantasy? Yeah, Jody's saying that, that was me. I want to tell you something, that my happiness has dramatically increased since I started living in reality. It's a really strange thing to explain. I'm not getting as angry about things. I am more accepting of things. I, don't waste a lot of time in emotion anymore. And this is the whole focus of what we're doing this year is, to realize, and quite honestly, I didn't realize it myself. So that's why I talk about it a lot. Is that any thought we have has to travel through our emotional brain before it gets to the reality part of our brain, or the rational part. Let me put rational because that's what it is. So when you know that every thought travels through your emotion first, how many of you watching this on the replay, how many of you get stuck here? You feel the pain, the hurt, the sometimes you sometimes get into paranoia here and all sorts of things, whereas if you just go, that is emotion. All right, I need to get out of emotion and into reality. What is the reality here? Jody, do you have any tips to help people? What do you find helped you? If you had to pass on a tip to somebody and say, if you want to live in reality, this is how I do it, I'd be really interested to hear what your feedback would be. There's less of a fail. Yes, I agree with you that when you live in reality, I'm not always, I'm wishing for something else. I'm making sure that every day I'm grateful for what I've got. I always love that quote that Benji gave me that one time, because, it was so simple and yet so true. When, for example, I heard this week that my Jeep is having some major problems that in the long term that are coming down the pike. That there's an emotion that goes, oh, why me? Why da 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 da? And then the reality is, wow, aren't I lucky that it's lasted me 20 years? Aren't I lucky that I'm about to sell my home and will be able to afford a new to me car? And so that's not staying in emotion, that's getting into reality. The emotion is what you feel. The reality is, aren't I lucky that it's not happening right now and that I'm not having to find the money for it right now? Do you understand the difference? And so what I love about working with this emotional stuff is that you can actually, get out of the hamster wheel. How many of you know that feeling where you're just going, oh, You're just going faster and faster and it's not getting you anywhere. Whereas if you could get off the hamster wheel and just go, it is what it is. Now what am I going to do? Yeah, Jody, I'm glad that you say that. Stop wasting time living in Disneyland and spend more time creating options and solutions to allow your reality to resemble your fantasy more closely. Yes, it's one of the things that I really spent an awful lot of time helping people with, which is, they would tell me, but why doesn't he do da 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 da? I said, you're living in Disneyland. You've seen a movie where a guy does that and you've always wanted that to happen. Your guy doesn't do that. Now, do you still want to be married to him? Yeah, Jody is saying for her, what she learned was stop wishing. Stop having these wishes. I wish that would happen. I wish that. No, right? What Jody has said, I stop wishing. I felt better. And then concentrate your time on doing things to make the wish happen. All right, so that's called a goal. That's having a goal. Hi, Linda. and Linda's saying the phrase that she usually uses is, okay, now what would Sal say? Well, Linda, what a wonderful compliment. But as I keep saying to so many people, I wish I were perfect. I am not. But I'm learning, and me, as fast as I learn, I will pass whatever I've learned on. And I want to tell you that this year, more than any others, I can really feel the benefit of doing this. I wanted to give you an example for those of you who don't know. I've spent a year downsizing my house, and I've just about finished. And I realized that a year ago, I was in panic about selling the house. Well, the truth is, it's a year later, and I've survived. And if I juggle all the money correctly, I probably have enough money left to still do another 6 months or more. So you understand, this is like all that panic a year ago before I really started getting a grip. Was wasted energy. It was all what if, how many of you get into that what if monster? All right. And, it's just like, what was the point? Just get on and downsize. And, Jody's saying that at least 3 times a day they ask, what would Sal say about this? It's like, I want to tell you that now that you can hear me say it, why don't you just do it and say, what does my rational brain think? Yeah, I love it that you give me credit, but do you understand what you've done? To be able to say that means that you want to get out of emotion. To be able to say, what would Sal say now, means you want to get out of emotion. And so, to me, all the rush. I don't mind telling you, there was a point this week where I stopped and I smiled at my very tidy house. Well, it's getting that way. My very tidy house and all the things I've learned about, throwing things away, all the things I've learned about keeping, everything in its place and a place for everything. All the things I've learned about all the things that are in the boxes downstairs that I haven't touched for 6 months. That do I really need them? And yes, Jody's saying that was a lesson in grace of not panicking and making swift decisions under pressure. Yes, and I think wrong decisions under pressure. What a gift. Do you know, I went to go and I don't mind discussing this because it's an interesting lesson to learn. At the same time as all this is happening, my mortgage came up for renewal. So I needed to sign a new mortgage. Now, for those of you who don't know about this, if I sign up for a new mortgage, then I know I'm going to be selling the house. I will immediately, when I sell the house, have to pay at least 3 months penalty for paying out the mortgage early. Does that make sense? Now, I didn't want to get in my brain that I better take a year selling the house so that I don't have to do that. No, that wasn't what I wanted to do. I literally sat there. And I said, okay, now you're busy telling me what I already know. This is I'm saying to the bank guy. Now, how about you tell me what you recommend I do? Because I want to know what I can do, not what I can't do. I already worked out that if I took on the mortgage again, it would cost me 3 months. The other thing was, that they had hoped that obviously that I would sign my mortgage right there and then. And I said, no, I have questions first that I need answered. I wasn't going to be rushed. Jody, you're right. I've really learned how not to rush it anymore. And I said, I just want to make sure I make the right decision. So I've got, a few questions to ask, which I did. And then I said, now then, what haven't I thought about? In terms of these questions and the answers, what have I not thought about? And the interesting thing was the bank came up with another option. And the other option was not to take out a mortgage. Listen to this one. But to take out a line of credit, which would cost me more interest than a mortgage. But it didn't have any penalty if I paid it out at any time. So that isn't something that I would do if I thought the house wasn't going to sell in 2 years, right? But if it's possible that the house could sell within 6 months to a year, maybe sooner if I'm lucky, but the market is slow. So I'm saying, if I had to do that over a year, it actually doesn't tie me in the same way that a mortgage does. Now, the other thing, because I'm a risk manager, how many of you going, yeah, but what if? All right, you went, you went into another level of reality. Yeah, that sounds good, but what if? And the what if in this case is reality, because I think it's important if you're going to sign up for something like that. So what I said was, what if something terrible happens to me? And then he immediately presumed I meant that I was dead. And then he told me, well, that's okay. I thought that was funny. That's okay, because, your estate would be frozen and, the house would get sold and we'd get paid out. But, I said, no, I didn't actually mean that terrible. I was thinking, what if what if I got sick, and ended up in hospital for something for a couple of months? What would happen then? So, it was an interesting discussion. Now, for those of you who have heard of Picasso, the famous painter, something, I really like this thinking, and how many of you can understand what he was getting at? He said, I'd like to live like a poor man, only with tons of money. And in a way, how many of you can see that people moving into tiny houses are doing that? They're moving into the amount of space that previously we would have thought that was a very poor person. But what they're doing is freeing up an awful lot of equity so they can enjoy their life. Did anyone, and Erin saying, yes, Erin, thoughts and prayers to you. I haven't got to that part yet, but yes, I was aware of that. Are you okay? For those of you who are watching on the replay, Erin had a routine check of her feet, and next thing she knew, she was in an operation. How are you, honey? That's really good for you to come in. Thank you. It's really strange. That's why I needed to put out a general thoughts and prayers this week, because so many people that I know are in hospital, or a family member has suddenly been diagnosed very seriously. I just, it was like, to put them all up was just so long, and I just went, I just need to put up a general thoughts and prayers here, because this is an insane week. And, this is before we even get into Mercury being in retrograde on the 5th. It's just like, seriously, let's take this easy. The treatment for your foot really stinks? Oh, literally. Or do you mean it's very painful? If you can, Erin, and I understand that might be difficult for you, and also if you choose to, could you let me know what I can say publicly about it? All right, because I'm certain there are going to be people that will want to know. Yeah, exactly, Jody. We got so much going on in our Dear Mama Sam family. That's right. And, I've got people in my own sphere of friends that got a lot going on as well. And it's like a really strange time. I'm actually quite surprised at how many things are going on, which is why I thought that I would do a couple of things that make us smile. Okay, Stephen Wright again said, what's the other word for thesaurus? Yeah, it's, Jody, it's been one of those weeks. Oh no, Pat. All right, may I talk about that publicly, Pat, so that I just want to get your okay on that one. Oh, that's right. I did read that. And it's okay for me to talk about that, Erin. I presume that because you typed it. Okay. Erin's saying that her foot opened up. She had a screw in, was it in your ankle? And it started to extract itself. So she had to have an operation for them to fix that. Okay, so all right, so Pat, I won't talk about that publicly. I'm sending you thoughts and prayers. Hi, Washington D.C. Good to see you here. Welcome. And what brought you into the channel today? Yeah, Emma's saying that she had the same thing happen to her sister. She was walking around for months with displaced screws. That must be so painful, yeah. Well, Pat, we send you a huge hug, and let us know the outcome, if you will. No, I just wanted to know if it's okay to talk about your treatment. I'm presuming that it is, because you're continuing. The other information to which you refer, Erin, I'm not touching that one unless you specifically tell me to. You were having dark chocolate in your cozy chair and you just saw me. What a delight. Yeah, and so it's big hugs to you there. Now, some of you need this quote today. I don't know who said it, probably that well-known person, anonymous. But they said this. Now, everybody take a deep breath and repeat after me. Don't judge me. I was born awesome. Can you imagine saying that into the mirror every day? Well, Pat, we'll be thinking of you for all weekend. That's for sure. No, Jody says, and you're biased, right, Jody? Josie says, a cozy chair, dark chocolate, and sal. What a treat. I think add the latte and it would be heaven. So, mulberry. I think mugwumps are nice. And mugwump, I want to call you mugwump. Is that all right? If you care to, let us know a little bit about, male, female, rough age group that you're in, just so people can relate. Yes, Pat's saying that, isn't that true? What if we could see everybody as awesome? And if we don't, how about, what if you could just say to yourself, I know somewhere deep down this person is awesome. I just got to spend my time finding where the awesomeness is. And by the way, that's what I'm going to be talking about tonight. How to find the awesomeness in people. You're a female and you're a mid student. Excellent. Any idea what you're going to specialize in? Okay, hang on a second, Erin. They took your ankle out? Like for good? Didn't replace it? All right, and so they haven't closed it up because if so, the infection would spread. Yeah, I got that. I understand that. But now, for those of you who don't know, Erin is pretty much bedridden anyway. So, the fact that they took your ankle out isn't actually, I want to say, going to affect your life that much because you're bedridden. But, that's sounds harsh, and I don't mean it to, because I'm sure it's very, very painful. But I just want to make sure that people who are listening understand that it's not like you're able to walk on that foot anyway, right? Am I right in that, Erin? Let me know. I don't want to be lacking in empathy because I really, me better than that. But I just want to make sure that other people understand that it might not be the same, for somebody. But I understand that this must be horrifically painful for you. And it almost makes me, quite honestly, almost makes me gag just thinking about how painful that must be. And so, don't hear what I'm saying from a place of lack of love. How many of you can relate to this one? Somebody said, my life feels like a test, one I didn't study for. Hi, Carrie. How many of you can feel that one? It's like, I wish somebody had told me I was going to need to study this part of my life this way. I think retirement is like that. I think, you think you know what retirement is until you get there. And then you go, ooh, I wish I'd known about this. There's so many different things now that I can think of that I thought the interesting thing yesterday when I was at the bank was I actually felt quite proud of myself in terms of what I've done up until now and to have done it without a whole lot of stress. And I'm now busy trying to work out how can I make the job of selling the house, actually getting it onto the market, less stressful? The other thing that I wanted to sort of, I had somebody come to my door that was a landscape gardener type person. I said, oh, good, because I'm looking for somebody to clean up my yard. And he said, no, we don't normally do that until April or so. And I went, well, that's a pity because I need it cleaned up before then. But never mind, thank you. And it was just like, I've got to find somebody who's prepared to work in the last part of winter. Okay, that's exactly it. Okay, thanks, Jody and Erin. Both of them tell me it wasn't her ankle that they took out, but they took the pin out. You see, that's the joy of written communication, isn't it? They took the screw out and they haven't put a new one back in. Is that right? How many of you love this quote? Because I want to tell you that there were times in my life where this would have made so much sense to me. It says, I don't go crazy. I am crazy. I just go normal from time to time. One of the things that when I went to go and get my car back this week, they said to me that my car wasn't draining. There wasn't a pull on the battery that was causing the problem. And I said, okay, so let me see if I've got this right. I've got a perfectly healthy battery that magically just drains, but it hasn't got a drain on it. And it's not because there's something faulty with the battery. It's not because the alternator isn't working. You're telling me that it just magically drains. So it's fine now, is what you're telling me, because you've boosted it and done everything. But where is the line? And they went, which line? I said, the one I'm going to cross where it'll suddenly go and start draining again. I just want to know where that line is so I can avoid it. Oh, Mugwump, do we agree with you? Mugwump says, I think a little craziness and a little humor make getting through life a lot easier. I found that being able to be grateful and to find myself and my reaction to things amusing just really does help a great deal. By the way, some of you need to know that I am busy on a program of losing weight, but it's now coming close to Easter and the hot cross buns out. Now, for those of you who don't know what hot cross buns are, I'm actually quite surprised. I've had a couple of people say, what are hot cross buns? And I thought everybody, I thought everybody knew what hot cross buns were. What are they? They are like a bun that is sweet because it's got sweet, what do you call it? I can think of the word. I want to say caramelized fruit, but it's not caramelized fruit. It is, there's another word. Jody will work it out for me. Anyway, it's got fruit in it. And so it's a bit like raisin bread. And it only comes out at Easter time. And so, and they are carbs, quite serious carbs. And obviously they're not as good. Yeah, they got fruit in it, but I'm trying to think what you call that. Like sweet dry. I'm going to go and get some in a minute. Anyway, but it's got gorgeous stuff in it. And I'm going, I want to be able to have one of those a day. What do I have to do? Because, I'm watching my carbs. What do I have to eat all day long so I can have one of these every day? Do you see that's the difference in my life now? It's not about, oh, I can't have one of those. Yeah, I can. I just need to know what I have to compensate. And by the way, I had one yesterday with butter on it. It was so good. And I still came in under 50% carbs. Yes. Now, I won't necessarily be losing weight, but I did keep the balance. So today, it's definitely a day, and I'm looking at the sunshine and going, I really need to go for a walk. And this is Stephen Wright again. This guy is full of great quotes, right? He says, I look like a casual, laid-back sort of guy, but it's a circus inside my head. And I say that as well. It's like when you see a duck, swimming on the pond, right? It looks so serene, and yet underneath it's going, and it was so much of my life that I spent in that mode, right? That's like, ah! And the funny thing is, how much energy did I waste? And I really look at it now, and I can see that, boy, did I waste a lot of my time in stress and yuck. Sunshine in West Coast, the wet coast of Canada as well. We call it the wet, well, most people call it the West Coast, but we actually call it the wet coast because normally we've got a lot of rain, but we got sunshine today. It's beautiful. I'm sorry to hear that it snowed last night. I'm pleased to tell you that, we went insane here, Mugwump, because we had about 12 to 14 inches of snow. And this for our part of the world where we have two, we start calling snow days. You know what I mean? We're not used to snow at all. And we had about 14 inches. But the good news is it's nearly all melted now. Wow. Stephen Wright again said, I wrote a few children's books, not on purpose. Yeah, I think mine have got other dried fruits in them other than currants. I've got to find the word. Hang on a second. I've got to go. Nah, I don't have time. Yeah, I do. Hang on a second. I'm going to go and find what I'm talking about so you'll understand what I'm talking about. Okay, Jody. you normally find these in Christmas baking, and I'm trying to think what they're called. I can't for that. Oh, look at that! I got a hot crisper. Yes, but what do you call them when you dry cherries like that? Not caramelized. They are. I thought if I tasted them, it might ring a bell, but it didn't. So good. So those of you who are on the fitness group, I purposely worked out how much one of these cost me. Excuse me, talking with my mouth full. In terms of carbs. Candied. Thank you, Jody. That is exactly the word. I knew it began with a C. So it's got candied fruit in it. Now, Jody's saying that yours only have raisins. How sad is that? Even better with butter. Toasted with butter. Okay. You finally got those two marbles working in the right direction, Jody. I knew you would. Mine wouldn't. Mine refused to come up with candy. It came up with, it begins with C, and that's as far as I got. How many of you relate to this one? This one says, I don't even believe it myself when I say I'll be ready in 5 minutes. Have any of you ever done that where you go, oh, it'll just take a minute. You go, let me just correct that. My 1 minute could be 10. Lord. I'm really sorry to eat this in front of you, but it's so good. Think of it as self-indulgent. You see, do you understand this whole thing that I'm working on is not about deprivation? Oh, Jody, you see, I love your thinking. Jody says, these carbs in here don't count because I'm only eating it for research purposes so people can see what's inside. They'll be counting. Joan Rivers said, when she was getting older, the best birth control now is just to leave the lights on. Oh, Lordy, Lordy. All right, how about this one? This one applies to me all the time. I'm not really shy. I'm holding back my awesomeness so I don't intimidate you. All right, how do you like this one? Is an emotion? Because I feel it all the time. Huh? How many of you relate to that one? This is somebody with a very weird sense of humor. And this one says, if you're lonely, dim all the lights and put on a horror movie. After a while, it won't feel like you're alone anymore. That's why they have TV ads with people eating things, which to me is insane because, you know, what they want you doing is going shopping and for their stuff. They don't want you going to the fridge and eating somebody else's stuff, but never mind. Couple of good ones coming up. Here we go. Are you ready for this one, everybody? Take a deep breath, get control. I don't weigh myself because most scales don't know how heavy all the grudges are that I'm holding. Yeah, Jody's saying they made a package from me, right? The eating thing. They made a fortune from me. That and cute, shiny packaging. Yeah, I must admit, Jody, it's why I buy things online now rather than go into the store, because it's just, I find it's less disconcerting for me. Now then, this is good. Ready? Get control. Fries or salad sums up every adult decision you have to make. Isn't that the truth? You know, if it looks good, you can't eat it. You know, people, you know, I always, you guys that know me well can understand this. I have days where literally I'll be in a restaurant and they go, fries or salad. And I'll go, do you think I got a body like this eating salad? You see, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. Oh, would you like some more fresh bread? So, like, of course. This is in the days when I still could. So, anyway, yeah, Jody's being very practical. Have the salad, and then you'll eat less fries. Now I just allow myself the illusion of having yam fries rather than potato ones. The difference in calories and carbs is very minimal, but it's healthier. Okay. Now everybody, take this very seriously. Control. If we were not meant to have midnight snacks, why is there a light in the fridge? Now this one you're going to think about a bit before it makes it seem funny, but just think about this and then you'll see the humor in it. You'll never be as lazy as whoever it was who named the fireplace. Yeah, I never thought about that. How lazy is that? What are we going to call this? The fireplace. Yeah. Yeah, they could have come up with a fancier word than that, right? All right, now this one is very important for some of us. I am not lazy. I am on energy saving mode. That's the problem, right? Energy saving. How about man cannot live by bread alone? He must have peanut butter. Roger Dangerfield again. He did have a quirky sense of humor, that guy. I could tell that my parents hated me. My bath toys were a toaster and a radio. I told my psychiatrist, this is Dangerfield again. I told my psychiatrist that everyone hates me. He said I was being ridiculous. Not everybody has met you yet. Again from Dangerfield. My doctor told me to watch my drinking. Now I drink in front of a mirror. Abe Lincoln, again, another guy not known for his humor, but apparently he had it. He said, if this is coffee, please bring me some tea. But if this is tea, please bring me coffee. Now, this one you got to think about as well, because it's one of those ones where you actually have to think before it's funny. Okay. Somebody said, I like Kit Kat unless I'm with 4 or more people. Get it? Because then you'd have to share. And there are only 4 pieces in a Kit Kat. Or how about this one? I walk around like everything is fine. But deep down, inside my shoe, my sock is sliding off. How many of you feel like that someday? You know, the outside looks good, but what's going on inside, not so good. Guess who said this one? You'd be right, Stephen Wright. Okay, do Lipton employees take coffee breaks? And another one by him. I drive way too fast to worry about cholesterol. I don't know who said this one. And well, you know something, Mugwump, to me, it's like, you know, it's important to enjoy parts of your life. I'm a great believer in just enjoying your life as you have it. How about this one? Am I perfect? No. But I'm striving to be a better person every day. But am I striving to be a better person every day? Also, no. That's not true of me. All right, now this one I like as well. It says, maybe you should eat some makeup so you can be pretty on the inside too. Do you know anybody that needs to do that? Yeah. How about love is blind and friendship tries not to notice? I think that's beautiful. Love is blind. Friendship tries not to notice. Doesn't say that it doesn't notice, it just says that it tries not to notice. Franz Kafka said, it's only because of their stupidity that they're able to be so sure of themselves. I don't know if any of you found that, but the older I get, the more I question the things I used to believe in. How many of you agree with this one? A best friend is like a 4-leaf clover. Hard to find, lucky to have. All right, but the next one about friendship says, as your best friend, I always pick you up after you fall, after I finish laughing. Actually, I actually said that. I actually said that to somebody the other day. I can't remember whether it was online or privately, but something really funny happened to them. I mean, really, it was, you know, it was something that they could have been hurt at, but it was really funny. And I said, quickly, tell me that you're not injured so I can laugh. You know, it was just like, it was so funny, but I thought if I laugh, it could be perceived to be very rude and uncaring. So quickly tell me you're okay so I can laugh. How many of you can see the honesty of that statement? Ah, that's so cute. Erin saying, "Need you, Sal. I need you to come down to California in about 45 minutes. I should be getting my treatment then." Oh, honey. All right, hang on a second. So, you know something, Erin? You know something? I just want to tell you something. After all you've been through in your life, it is what it is. It's not going to be an erotic experience. And the sooner it's over, how often do they have to do whatever it is they're doing? I don't want to make light of this, so I want to just check, I didn't understand either, Erin. Are they going have they put another pin in? And I want to tell you, Erin, that I had a horse that had a really dangerous injury, and they needed it to heal from the inside out as well. And I had one. You remember I told you about the fact where I'd been in caught on fire, and I ended up losing a big chunk like this big out of my hand, and you could actually see the bone. That's how bad when they got the molten polyester off my hand, that's, it just literally took, half my hand, well, quarter of my hand with them. But the thing was that when it heals from the inside out, you've got a much better chance of healing properly. So I know it's not fun, but I think you'd rather save your foot. Now, some of you need this one once a day. Okay. So here's what I would do, Erin, is once a day for the hour prior to them doing that, I would make sure you get onto stuff that makes you laugh. And I mean, you're here now, so that's wonderful. But I would definitely, make sure you got your YouTube lined up every day for funny people. Ah, okay. So they didn't replace the screw. It's gone for good. Okay. Because it doesn't need a screw anymore. Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, it rejected it. Isn't that amazing that the body did that? I don't need you anymore. Bye. Mm-hmm. Now, how many of you could have done with this quote a few times in your life? With the drama queens and the people that do nothing but whine, they don't do anything to fix the problem. Please cancel my subscription to your issues. How many of you wish that you would be, I mean, it's not very compassionate, is it? But, how many of you felt that? Do something about them. Stop complaining about them. I think right. So Mugwump's asked me, going a little bit off topic, what was life like when you were in your teens or 20s? What is it you'd like to hear about, Mugwump? And they were magical years in my life. I want to tell you something, Emma. It is scary how much medical stuff is going on. In my very small world, as I call it, I am just amazed between viewers and in my personal life, how many issues are going on at the moment. Oh, good question. Now, Mugwump, you're probably going to be surprised to hear this, but I was like the leader in so many things. I've told a lot of the viewers in different things. Wow, Emma, am I allowed to talk about that publicly? I was a radio ham in a country where being a radio ham was illegal because, it helped keep me in touch with people. I yeah, I was a CBer first, and then I became a radio ham. This is way before the internet. So I always found ways. I became a public speaker. I think that sort of made a lot of sense. And when I look back on it, Magwamp, I always was a performer. What was the house like? The main house I grew up in was a 400-year-old house in England. Yes, its walls were this thick, Magwamp, made of stone. Yeah, absolutely historic. In fact, you can, I can Google it, and hang on one second. It just is an amazing house. I've shown pictures, but of course they're packed away now. It's really, it'll take too long, but it's really strange where you can type in the name of your house and it comes up on the internet. It apparently had its first renovation in 1820. Renovation. Major, structural renovation in 1820 or something. The fireplaces were so big, Magwamp, that you could walk into them, and they had seats inside them. I don't know if anybody can visualize that. The fireplace was so big, you literally walked into it, and there was a special seat where you sat down so you could be really close to the fire. To give you an idea, Magwamp, the dining room had tooled leather wallpaper. It wasn't wallpaper, it was tooled leather. I've never seen that since, quite honestly. But that's, it was done originally, I guess, when the house was built. It had a pump outside, obviously. I can tell you what made it really interesting. When they did the first Great Expectations movie back in the 40s, they actually filmed part of it on the land. It was part of a 4,000-acre farm. All right. Virales. I don't know whether that's how you pronounce it, but I'm going to hope that is how it is. Welcome. How about this one? I'm not arguing. I'm simply explaining why I'm right. God, isn't that the truth, though? I could carry on telling, that's why I said to you, what specifically would you like to know, Magwamp? Because, those years were some of the most magical of my life, in so many different ways. So feel free to ask any other questions. All right, so this one makes me think of Mugwump because it says, there's nothing better than a friend unless it's a friend with chocolate. I would say, unless it's a friend with chocolate that's prepared to share. By the way, Magwump, it had two ghosts in it, two completely different entities. I have to say that because they did different things. One threw, one was a poltergeist. It actually literally threw things, and would and would do really weird things like, take your bedclothes and move them. Weird. Now, that came from my mother, and she did that to my mother one time. The other one was more protective. And it was forever standing or going across my dog. You know, my dog used to lie at the bottom of the stairs a lot of the time, and you'd actually see it suddenly jump up with all its hackles up, and you'd see it going, and it would be growling, and you could watch it watching this entity go up the stairs. It was the most weird thing to see. You're going, and yeah, we'd all just laugh and go, "Oh, that's Fred," you know. Because when you live with a resident ghost or two, I don't know if this makes sense, but when you live with a resident ghost that is not harming you, it's a little bit interesting. You know, the doors were solid wood about this thick. You know, a breeze could not open a door. Do you understand that? When they're this, solid wood, really heavy, this thick. And suddenly you'd be sitting watching television, and the door would open. Now, why they had to open the door, I don't know. But the door would open, and you're going, "Oh, hi, Fred." All right, so how about this one? It's one of the blessings of old friends that you can afford to be stupid with them. How many of you are going, that is my definition of a friend, right? They love me regardless of who I am. How many of you agree with this one, that a child educated only at school is an uneducated child? How many of you feel that the real education comes later? You know, I used to be part of a big leadership training thing. Yeah. Okay. So two things, Erin. I agree with you. Jody's asking me rather. You were never frightened at all of the entity. It wasn't frightening. It never did anything to me that I had reason to be frightened of either of them. I believe that because we all treated it the same way as a child, oh, that's Fred. Things would happen. And the other one we called Friend of Fred. Like you'd suddenly see, a vase move, and you knew that if it was something moving, it was Friend of Fred. It wasn't Fred. Fred didn't do that. It was Friend of Fred that did things like that. And then, it was just like, mind you, it was very useful, Jody, because if you accidentally dropped something that you shouldn't have done, you went, Friend of Fred came, and he just, it was very useful. Erin, I totally agree. No, Sal. A friend with chocolate is not a friend unless they share without being asked. That's a true friend, yes. Yeah, or a child. Have you noticed that? I grew up in Hogwarts, yes. You know something? You're very right. It looked a lot like that too. Now that I think about it. Right, that actually touched my soul, because now that I think about it, it looked a lot like that. It was a manor house. Do you know what a manor house is? You ever seen Lord of the Manor? Downton Abbey, not quite. Not quite, but a step down from Downton Abbey, but you're in the right league, yes. It was so funny when I was in Africa, and I first came across that everybody in Africa in those days had servants, and there was I had one flatmate at one time, a roommate, whatever you call them, And she told me to go to the kitchen and go and get something. And I said, why would I do that? She said, I'm used to having servants. And I looked at her and I said, and so am I, but mine were white. You know, and we're just like, seriously, that's your reasoning? You know, it was like, oh, Lord. People are so strange, aren't they? And by the way, that, you know, if I misbehaved at the dinner table or anything, Mugwump, I was sent to the kitchen to eat with the servants. What my mum didn't realize was I really loved being with the servants. They were so funny. And they loved me to bits because I was, they just see me coming in with my plate and they go, what did you do now, Sal? And I go, well, yeah. I go sit down, enjoy your meal. Would you like some more? You know, it was just like a big thing for me. You know, if I made a whole week without eating with the servants, I was doing well. And, you know, they really embarrassed me once. If you can imagine this, Mugwump. The dining room table was made of solid mahogany and it seated about 20 people, you know, it's a Hogwarts again. And the chairs were all tooled leather as well. And anyway, so I brought a boyfriend down for the weekend to meet the family. Should never have done that. And for some reason, my mom, who never believed in paper napkins, or we always had proper cloth napkins. For some reason, she put out paper napkins that day, and they were leftover wedding ones from my sister or something. And it was so funny because I remember my sister saying, we know we're trying to get rid of Sal, but did you have to make it so obvious? Which, quite honestly, was a very funny line. And the guy I was with was really in the moment, and he just looked at my sister and he said, don't worry, I'm already married. But you can imagine in that environment with, you know, all these people all these people sitting at the table. By the way, he wasn't, but it was just so fast and so funny. You know, with all these people sitting around with the chandeliers, you know, the candles going and everything. And it was like, don't worry, I'm already married. I can remember bringing one guy home as well. And do you all know what vichyssoise is? It's cold potato soup, basically. And, you know, the guy arrived late, you know, which is unheard of in my family. You didn't arrive late for anything, but he arrived late. And we had already started eating. And so he came in and sat down at the table and he took one sip of the soup and he said, gosh, I didn't realize that was that late. The soup's cold. Now, he actually knew what it was, but it was a priceless line. I looked at him and I went, oh, that's good. You know something, Mugwump, it was grand. It was grand. The only thing is, also see that I was sent away to boarding school for most of the year because that's what grand people did in those days. You know, you shipped your children off for the school year. So, you know, there were sort of two sides of it, I think. I often wondered whether the reason I was always given horses, ponies and horses when I was growing up was because it got me off the property. You know, it was sort of like, okay, give Sal a horse, she'll be gone for the day. And I was. Now, how about this one for an incredible bit of wisdom? Listen to this, people. In school, you were taught a lesson and then given a test. But in life, you're given a test that teaches you a lesson. Wow. Isn't that the truth? And how many of you have noticed you keep getting the same lesson time and time again until you get it? That to me is really scary. How about this one? Finish last of your league and they call you an idiot. Finish last in medical school and they call you doctor. Somebody said, no wonder the teacher knows so much. She has the book. Yeah, we can all look smart when we've got the book in front of us, right? Right. Now, this one is very droll as well. Do you know the word droll? Very, sort of very funny if you think about it. It says like people learn something every day. And a lot of times it's that what they learned the day before was wrong. I'm still finding things that my mother taught me that are totally wrong. Have you noticed that? Why do mothers lie that much? To me, it's like, why do why do parents lie that much to their children? And I actually catch it now with parents when I hear them lie to their children. And I go, why would you lie to them? I don't do it publicly. I do it in private, where I go, I heard you tell your son, da, 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 da. Why did you lie? Oh, he's too young to understand. I said, no, you'll be amazed. They will, he will later come back and realize that you lied to him. And then people say, oh, I never lied to my children. I said, okay, so there was no Easter Bunny and there was no Santa Claus and there was no Christ. Or was there? It's like, which one is the lie? So, to me, it's like, it's really interesting when you think about it, how much we lie to children. And I actually have said to children that I know, now your mom and dad would want me to tell you da, 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 da. But it's me, so I'm going to tell you the truth. This is the answer. Mark Twain said, and isn't this true of mothers as well? He said, when a teacher calls a boy by his entire name, it means they're in trouble. How many of you were called by your full name when you were in trouble? I was always called Sallykins by my mother for some reason. I was very cute and I loved it. But if ever I heard her say Sally, I go, oh no, what did I do now? And if she used all my names, because when you grow up in the equivalent of Downton Abbey, you have a lot of names. If ever she used all three of my names, that was, I don't know if any of you relate to that, but if she used all three of my Christian names and then added my last name as well, it was like, yikes, the earth has just opened up. There's big trouble coming. Right. You see, Emma, if you don't get out of the bathtub quick enough, you'd be sucked down the plug hole. Really? I mean, you're still a little bit scared about that. Isn't that amazing? What a terrible thing to teach a child, right? And they thought it was so funny. Yeah, you better get out now because you don't get out fast enough, you get sucked down the plug hole. Oh. That is really sad. Anybody else got any of those? Yeah, very sad, Emma. And Junior, we wonder why we're so dysfunctional, right? Hello, guess why? I can remember, this is sad, but I can remember being beaten with a hairbrush because I was singing Oh My Papa, which was a song from way back in my time. And, you know, my father had left and we weren't allowed to even mention the fact that I had a father, quite honestly. I got beaten that day because I was singing that. But I grew up in a nice house. This came from Henry Kissinger. This is I didn't know he was funny either. But Henry Kissinger said, listen to this one. Henry Kissinger said, there cannot be a crisis next week. My schedule is already full. Babies come out of baskets with flowers. Yes, isn't that cute? Yeah, and like the stork, right? How many of you still look at storks and go, are they carrying a baby at all? Jody said her brother told me that there were monsters under the basement steps that would grab your feet. So I ran at breakneck speed whenever I had to use those stairs, of course. And it's amazing you didn't kill yourself. Right, and you know, it's amazing, you know, people that were taught, right, the monsters live under the bed are scared to put their feet on the ground in the morning. Absolutely, yeah. And isn't this one a bit of, you know, reality rather than humor? Most people work just hard enough not to get fired and get paid just enough money not to quit. I think that's so true. Mark Twain, listen to this one. Mark Twain said, clothes maketh man. Naked people have little or no influence on society. I don't know why I find that so funny. Yeah. All right, now this is a great quote about technology. If you listen to it, it was by Henry Ford, the originator of the Ford Motor Company. Listen to what he said. He said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. Isn't that interesting? He's right. Right? Because they had no perception of a motor car when they said, okay, and you know, can you now understand why we talk about horsepower in an engine, right? Because it literally was, this engine can do, you know, 4 times as much as a horse in terms of power. Or it's the equivalent of having 4 horses in front of you instead of 1. So I thought that was really interesting. If I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. For those of you who know me, I'm busy doing a little bit of research into some stuff that Richard Branson is talking about. I have beautiful hands. Thank you. Beautiful in what way? And I say that because, is it beautiful in the way that I use them or beautiful in the fact that they are beautiful? Yeah, hands. You know, but you know, because some people For some people, it might be the way in which I use them, and for some people, it might physically be the hands. So I just want to make sure I get the right compliment here. But thank you very much for the compliment. I like that. Both. Okay, yes. It's the difficulty I have when I came onto YouTube is I'm used to walking and talking, Mugwump. So you can probably imagine that, right? When I used to be up on stage, I'd literally, when I was doing a speech, I'd walk the whole stage, get down off the stage, run up and down the aisles. You can probably imagine, right? Cause chaos wherever I went. And so to me, it's difficult. I actually work very hard at keeping my hands occupied. As some people will tell you, it gets me into a lot of trouble because I fidget rather than, talk with my hands. Something tells me there must be a small amount of Italian in me somewhere, probably, my left toe or something, because I definitely get, in my natural environment, I use, I use my hands to talk. By the way, one of the things that you learn when you're a performer with an audience in front of you is that your hands and the way you move your eyes are really important. I could control a whole audience just by my look sometimes. I'd say to people, you think that what you have to say is important until you learn the magic of silence. Can you feel the difference? Could you feel the magic of silence? How many of you felt it to be a little threatening? And I'd hear somebody move to my left and I'd just turn and look at them. And I want to tell you, there's nothing more scary if you're in an audience of 7,000 people than to have the keynote speaker look straight at you. And sometimes I would not only just look straight at them, I'd start walking towards them. You want to know what scary is? That can be scary. So to me, there is great power. Yes, I was a performer. I found out, Mugwump, I don't know if this makes any sense to you at all, but I found, I was busy living my life and somebody asked me, I got a bit of good press. I was the center spread of a magazine and I had clothes on. You know that in my day, that was very serious. The only time you got a center spread in my day was if you didn't have clothes on. So I actually made the front page and center spread section of a magazine on something I had done successfully. And what happened was somebody phoned me and said, hey, I've just read this article about you and it's amazing. I wonder if you could come and tell my people how you did it. And I was stupid enough not to know the rest of the conversation. So I said, sure. And they said, well, don't you want to check if you're available? And I'm thinking, that was a good question. I should have asked that. And I said, oh, well, what day is it? And they told me, and literally, Mugwump, I had, you remember the yellow pages when we used to have that? I had a yellow pages in front of me, and I literally was going through my yellow pages, and then I sort of flattened it out, and I went, okay, did you say January the 24th? And they said, yes. And I said, at what time? Because now I'm learning fast, right? Obviously, they're smart questions to ask if you're going to be a performer. And they said, well, how does 3 o'clock in the afternoon sound? And then, listen to this, Mugwump. I'm still looking at the yellow pages and I'm going, will it be in this country? They said, what? I said, well, I need to know about travel time. Are you asking me to talk in this country? Well, yeah, here in this town, actually. I said, oh, well, if it's in this town, it looks like I could be available at 3:00, yes. I always remember that. Will it be in this country? You see, my dream was to become an international motivational speaker. That was my dream. And I lived it from that moment. Literally, will it be in this country, or are you going to fly me overseas? So what I learned the first time, and that's why I'm telling a story, Magwam, I got up and I gave a speech. They paid me to talk, duh. They paid me and they gave me a gift. And I got a standing ovation. Can you imagine? I'm literally watching all this go down and feeling all this love, and I'm going, this is the job for me. Now, I didn't realize how crucial and unbelievable the stress levels were. They say that being a professional speaker is, one of the most stressful jobs in the world. And I really, it is an incredibly stressful job. Literally, you can have a standing ovation from 7,000 people 1 minute, and or be in the green room and have Elton John's signature next to yours or whatever, and the Beatles, and literally, because that's what you do in a green room. You look at the ceiling, and all the people that have been there have signed it. So that 1 minute you feel that powerful, and you are in that moment. But an hour later you're sitting on your own in a hotel room, waiting to catch the early morning flight. I want to tell you, that is an emotional roller coaster that you cannot imagine. Or your car breaks down on the way to the airport, and you know that this is the flight. If you miss it, you not only miss the gig and all that pays, but also your reputation will be damaged, because everybody will talk about that's the speaker that let us down. So literally, I remember one time literally leaving my car on a bridge, and phoning my friends and saying, call my tow company and tell them to get my car off that bridge. You left it on a bridge that's illegal. I said, I know, but get it moved. I'll tell you where I left the key, because it's like, no, I have to be where I have to be. And I think about it now, the stress level, Magwamp, you wouldn't want it. I had one young person who job shadowed me, and I said, you can do it, but if you job shadow me, you have to live my life. No, don't just rock up, and work 9 to 5. You need to live my life. And after 48 hours, she said to me, I've just lived 48 hours. It's enough to tell me I never want this job. I said, why not? And she said, you literally left home at 5:00 in the morning, and then you went on a ferry. You then traveled for another 3 hours. You then had to socialize with people. You then did a speech, and after the speech, you needed to socialize with the people again. You didn't get to bed until 2:00 in the morning, and then you were up at 4 to get ready to get onto the ferry to go back again. Yes, I want to tell you, Emma, people don't think about that. When I watch big celebrities, I cry for them, right? So Emma's saying, I always wondered what that must feel like, Sal, to be a singer, a speaker, whatever. You just performed in front of thousands, and then you're alone in a room. I think in a way, Emma, it's why a lot of performers travel with a group of people. Do you know what I mean? That's why they have a bus or whatever. They have an entourage of people, so they're not alone. They can debrief that way. I want to tell you, it's an emotional roller coaster that you cannot imagine. And you can't go back next week and fix a mistake. If you're a consultant or something and you screw up, you can do something to fix it. If you're standing in front of 7,000 people and you screw up, You've probably got another 40 minutes of speaking to do, knowing that you just lost the audience in that moment. I want to tell you that is lonely. Does that make sense? I had it happen once, Emma, where I was doing a speech and I could tell I totally lost the audience. And that didn't happen to me very often in my life. But this one, there were school trustees, and I think they were still drunk. I was the opening speaker first thing in the morning, and I think they were still drunk, and they just weren't getting the fun stuff at all. And so then I looked at them and I said, okay, now I just want to tell you something. You're a very difficult audience. I don't mind telling you that. So if you're not going to be amused by what I was hoping to entertain you with, then let me tell you what I really want to tell you. And I spent the next 40 minutes, knowing I probably wasn't going to get paid anyway, the next 40 minutes telling them what I thought about schooling. And it was absolutely off the top of my head. I hadn't prepared it. I didn't have any notes or anything, because that's not what I do. And I just told them why I thought education today was going in the wrong direction. And I wanted them as school trustees to give it some thought. I got a standing ovation because they appreciated the fact that I didn't keep going in the direction I was going, that I actually changed and talked about something that they considered was relevant to them. Even if they didn't like what I was saying, they actually appreciated the fact that I made the switch. Yeah, Emma, you have a beautiful voice. I mean, it stunned me when I listened to your voice. Emma saying, it makes sense. I sang at the Waterford Hall in Belfast. My nerves killed it. And by the end, everybody only had sympathy. I will never forget that ghost. No, you don't. But it isn't who you are. That wasn't who you are. That was your not getting your butterflies under control. And I've always said that to people. People say to me, gosh, I'm scared stiff of speaking. I said, so am I. So am I. And they said, how can you be? You do it for a living. I said, two things about being a professional speaker. The number one thing is the day I don't have butterflies in my stomach is the day that I will worry, because I will have become complacent. And the second thing is I am so grateful that so many people are so scared of being speakers. So grateful. And they go, why? And I said, it's why I get paid so much. You see, there is gratitude in everything if you want it. If everybody wanted to be a speaker, I assure you, they wouldn't pay me the sort of money that I get paid. And, and it was just like they went, good point. But, you also realize in that moment, I've always said to other YouTubers, you need to know what you're in it for. You need to know why you are on taking up people's time. And for me, I've always said, and you've heard me say it time and time again, that my only wish in the world is to say something that will be of benefit to somebody. I don't know who it is. Half the time, I have no idea who's listening, because I am shocked, because people come out of the woodwork and I'm going, I only thought I had this many viewers signed in today, when the truth is there are so many more that are watching and listening either right now or on the replay. And you realize after a while that it's not about a number of people, it's did you help anybody? Did you make somebody's day a little bit brighter? Did you make somebody think that had not been able to think? Emma, I didn't miss your comment about the pacemaker. That is a scary thing, to have a foreign object put into your body. Am I right? But and I know you well enough, Emma, to know you've got an incredible sense of humor. And I would say to you, it sure beats the alternative of your heart not beating properly. And you have such a big heart. It deserves, that's why it needs a bit of help. If your heart were a little bit smaller and you didn't care so much about things, you probably could get away that the rest of us do. So I would say, aren't you so grateful that we live in today's technology where they can put in a pacemaker? You know, that's the way I would look at it and go, sure, it's scary stuff. I assure you that Erin with her things that she needs to have done to her in the next hour, you know, it's not fun stuff, but, you know, it's like, it is what it is. I assure you that I went to go and yes, it's going to be great fun going through metal scanners, isn't it? You're going to set every one of them off. And by the way, I have a bracelet that I can't take off. And, you know, so quite often I set off the scanners as well. But I'm so used to it now. I always say to them, thank you so much for keeping us safe. And, you know, I'm sorry to take up your time, but, you know, I can't take the bangle off. And between the bangle and the ring and other things, you know, it's like, yeah, right. It all adds up. So, but the other thing I found out that is interesting, Emma, is how many times I've been in to have an operation, and I've been in for a few in my time. And every time they say you need to take the bangle off. Well, I don't know if you can see, there's no way this bangle is coming off, right? It's been there since I was 14. It fitted beautifully when I was 14. And it's really funny how I said to them that the bangle is not coming off. And they said, well, if you can't get it off, we'll need to cut it off. I said, no, you don't. Yes, we do. I said, no, you don't. No. I assure you, I didn't get to be this age wearing this bangle by having it cut off. Because every time I've refused to have it taken off, I will sign a waiver if you need me to, that if the bright lights of the operating thing, you know, cause a burn, the silver causes a burn on me, I will write a waiver that I will not sue you. But just wrap it up in whatever way. Normally they put a little bit of gauze underneath it and then wrap it up so that it is at least shielded. But no, it's not coming off. You know, it was one of 7. I've only got the one left. It's not coming off. And, you know, it's amazing. If you say it in a way that they understand it, you know, they go, oh, okay. You know, like, you don't want to be fighting with me about my bangle. It's staying on. So here is my thing for today. It's a tough week, people, for a lot of people. My question is, it's a tough week for a lot of people. It doesn't have to be you. How you deal, remember what we say, how you deal with this week is going to be based on whether you stay in emotion or whether you get into reality. You know, the fact that Erin is having a really tough time with the dressing changing and everything that she has to do is excruciating, painful if you stay in emotion. Quite honestly, and Erin would be the first one to laugh when she hears it, I feel that I want to throw up because I can imagine the pain. I've been in that sort of pain. And then I go, my reality is, thank goodness I don't have to have that done today. Because I know that worrying myself sick about Erin is not going to change Erin's pain level at all. Does that make sense? Worrying myself sick about, Emma, when do you have your pacemaker put in? You know, worrying myself sick about Emma's pacemaker is not going to change it. She's still going to need a pacemaker. Yes, Emma, absolutely. Emma's saying how you deal with the emotion makes the world of difference. That's my big learning curve for this year. It is so true. I want to tell you something, Emma. That's why I decided I am going to spend the whole year talking about emotional intelligence for the viewers. Because what I hear is there is a desperate need for people to understand that we, listen to this one, people, we create our own drama. I was actually going to call today's session that. But what I realized was it probably wasn't going to get a whole lot of people listening to it. But do you understand how much of your own drama you create by worrying yourself sick, by not doing one step at a time, moving towards your goals, regardless of whether they're easy or not. Yeah, that we create our own drama in so many instances. I didn't get this weight by being an intelligent eater. I would not have diabetes today if I'd taken that wake-up call 20 years ago, but I didn't. But you know, the funny thing is, as soon as I found out that I had given myself this self-inflicted problem, I just vowed that I was going to self-inflict it better again. So I believe what is important is that we support one another. You see, I really do believe there are times we need to cry and there are times we need to laugh. And sometimes we need to laugh so we don't cry. And sometimes we need to laugh so we do cry. And so to all of you, I say, you are a very magical group of people, whether you are watching now or on the replay. You make a difference in somebody's life. You make a difference in somebody's life. But my biggest goal for every one of us this year is that we reduce the amount of self-inflicted drama and that we learn how to feel the emotion but not stay in it. That we feel the emotion and go, okay, I know what that is. I'm terrified of having a pacemaker put in. That would be quite normal. Agreed? Now then, what do I need to do to control that fear? You see, to me, I would be saying, I'm so glad I'm having a pacemaker in 2019, not in 1919. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like I wouldn't, the odds are so different. So Emma, you let us know when you get that letter so that we can be here for you. Right? I want you to, do everything you can to make this a positive experience. I assure you that I went into that session with my specialist after the CAT scan knowing there was probably a 50-50 chance that I was going to get a positive result, which meant there was a 50-50 chance I was going to hear that I had lung cancer. So you understand, I knew there was a 50-50 chance. And do you know, I went in there and I stayed so calm. And I noticed that he talked all sorts of interesting things first. And then I said, the reason I'm in here is to talk about that CAT scan. Is there a reason why you're not talking about it yet? Because I needed, before I could concentrate on anything else he was saying, I needed the results of that CAT scan. And he said, you're absolutely fine. Your lungs are clear. Yes, Emma, I want you to hear, for those of you who don't know, I wrote a poem for Emma some time ago called Shh, It's Okay. And Jody, if you will remind me, I will put the link up to that we have on DearMamaSal.com, we have a broadcast page, and we also within that menu have resources about things we talked about during the broadcast. And I will put the link to that poem, or maybe I'll just put it up on the regular feed on DearMamaSal.com, because it's about time people heard that again. So Jody, if you can remind me to put up as a link, I will do that. So everybody, I hope that this has made a little bit of difference in your life and that you can remember to laugh at yourself sometimes. Emma, what happened when I said, be grateful it's not 1919? Yes, how can I laugh and cry at the same time? All right. It's like, be very grateful. It's 2019. Yes, Emma's saying, I'll be listening to that poem on repeat before the anesthetic. Absolutely. You know, I'd be more than happy for you to do that. What a wonderful way to go into that sort of thing. It's my pleasure, honey. It really is my pleasure. I didn't realize when I wrote that poem for you that it would have the impact on you that it has had. Be grateful it is 2019 and they've done so many of these operations, it's not even funny. What was considered to be groundbreaking is now, you know, like removing tonsils. You know, they do this every day. The main thing is that you don't scare yourself stupid, that you remember this is not a huge operation anymore. Does that make sense, Emma? This is no longer, you know, groundbreaking or they're learning or whatever. You know, doing a pacemaker insert today is for them like, you know, cleaning their teeth. It's just they know what to do. There is no experiment about it. There is no, I wonder if this will work. You know, let's try tweaking it here. This now is just standard operating practice, if you like. Yeah, sigh. Makes sense. Now, I understand that any operation, you know, is risky, and when you have a child, that's scary. Fear has no logic, but your voice does. And I'll take that. It's the best tool. Wow, Emma, you are so kind to me. But I am grateful in that moment to be able to be there with you. You know, I need to say that. I'm grateful that I did write the poem and I recorded it for you so that I can be there with you. And you will know that I am, because you'll hear it in my voice. Okay, everybody. Big hugs. Look after one another, but please, please, please remember to look after yourselves. This is DearMamaSal saying it's a beautiful day where in my part of the neighborhood. And I wish you all a wonderful afternoon. I'll see some of you tonight at 7 o'clock Pacific time when we are going to talk about how do you find out about people? You know, have you ever wondered, like, I'd really like to know more about this person. What sort of questions should I ask? And I thought it might be an interesting thing to do is to sort of ask some questions of each other and see what sort of replies we come up with. So this is DearMamaSal saying, looking forward to seeing some of you tonight. And for those of you who've been here, thank you for being here. Love it. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now, everyone.